Alright guys, episode 6, season finale of Vape Shopping with Peg starts right now. So, 4th of July guys, happy 4th to all of you, and for those of you who have had your eye on different things at Vaper Company, shout out to Jason from Vaper Company, 4th of July sale, yeah, so anything that you were thinking about getting from different kind of used atomizers to the other stuff that they carry over there with other genuine stuff, as well as the foggers, well, save 15% on all of your orders right now, and the coupon code is over here. And as always, Vaper Company is free shipping on all orders. All right, so moving on. Normally, when we begin this show, we always want to check out what's going on Godsmoke because they always do the fun shopping, right? So, two items basically catch my eye for this one, right? Basically, one is the Kanger Aerotank Giant, right? Kanger Aerotank Giant, you know, these things over here, Kanger is just going to keep coming out with new stuff all the time, but hardly do they ever travel too far out of their coil structure. You know what I mean? They're always screwing around with like something like 33 to 34 gauge cantle, and until they move out of there, so that, like, you know, even if they do open up the airflow, even if they do start producing like a little more vapor or whatever with like regulated devices cranked up all the way, you'll still never produce the true dense vapor from using slightly thicker cantle, such as 28 gauge wire. Okay, you might be able to get a little something out of like 30 gauge wire with the correct kind of airflow adjustment, plus, like, you know, say like a K-Fun drip tip or something like that, so that, like, you know, the airflow control and everything, so that the vape density is sort of regulated, you know, as opposed to actually going into, you know, 28 gauge canthal, where like you definitely get dense vapor no matter what you do. So items like this, let's leave it to Indoor Smoker to review and talk about. And by the time he starts hollering from the mountains that like these things are performing just like RDAs, then let's come back and actually take a look at them. For the most part, for everybody who watches this show, you, my students, family members, friends, I don't think this is something that normally satisfies us. We're all into like rebuilding now. If you come to the show, basically, you know, as the saying goes, when you're done indoor smoking, come see Peg. Anyways, let's move on. Let's talk about this item. This item is very, very interesting, right? The Cerberus RDA clone. Okay, the Cerberus is what? Is the Hellhound. It is the doggy version of the Hydra. It's a three-headed dog, Hellhound beast. So what is very interesting about this? Well, looking at it, other than, like, you know, its airflow and, you know, tri-coils, you could build more than tri-coils on this thing. As I went over to Google to like see like different kinds of setups of what other people are doing with this stuff, there's a lot of different things out there. Now, I did originally say that after I did the Lotus RDA review, is that, like, does the world need tri-coils? Absolutely, absolutely, because sometimes it's just too hot to do a quad coil, and sometimes you want a little bit more performance out of, like, you know, than just doing dual coils, but you don't really want to go into 22 gauge canthal, you know what I mean? So just a little bit something more, so that, like, you know, right in between is good enough for you guys. Plus, there's a lot of different things that can be done with this. For instance, right, if we went ahead right now and then with a Cerberus RDA, right, and then let's look it up real quick, right? And let's pull up. Sorry guys, a little bit slow. Maybe I'll edit this part out. Okay, so we go to the images right here, right? Here's what I really want to show you guys. There's a couple of different interesting builds over here, such as this one, right? Of course, this one is a little bit more on the advanced side. I don't really expect all of you guys to attempt this one unless you really want the challenge build. But other than this, right, what's interesting is that, like, he was able to twist it so that, like, if you look at certain builds over here, the positive and the negative are lined up with each other, right? While over here from the Planet of the Vapes, the positive pins over here, right, is lined up more with the airflow control. So what does that mean? That means that we could do all sorts of more interesting types of coil setups, and that is something I definitely stand behind, because you know, if you're into collecting stuff or whatever, an item like this would definitely hone your skills towards, like, coil building and wicking and coming up with, like, more interesting stuff. It's stuff like this that I consider as innovation that's pushing the bar on it. Okay. airflow control, I've looked at other photos, right? Not so much you could tell from this one, but from other photos, yeah, see over here, there's 3 slits. Okay, so the airflow control design on this thing is actually correct. There is another one that is very similar to this on Fastech. I believe it's called the Wolverine right here. See, same thing. It attempts to do something like a tri-coil, whatever, but the problem is that like the airflow is absolutely wrong on this thing, all right? And in the discussion page over here, people are like, what's going on? 2 air slots? And there are people who actually even have the audacity that says that like, you know, I think it's even better with 2 air slots, while other people will, you know, just go ahead and correct them that like wrong, because, you know, correctly designed 3-coil RBA, definitely you need 3 air slots. Why? Because if you ever go ahead and just, you know, build a coil, you know, wick it, and then blow on it with the bell cap off, right? You'll notice that, like, you know, when you blow on it, that's when the air comes in, and then, you know, you produce the vapor, right? If you didn't have all 3 coils with independent airflow, then certain coils are going to get hotter than others, and basically, you know, the vape is just going to be unbalanced, and that's what makes it strange, right? So definitely, this guy, no idea what he's talking about. All right. Let's move on and talk about batteries. Batteries. This is a very big deal these days, okay? First, let's get some junk out of the way, and then let's get some good news on the way, all right? The bad news is that after doing more digging, right? Yeah, there is a lot of fake batteries out there, people. There's a lot of rewrap stuff. There's a lot of just fakers out there. Did you know that the EFES company makes basically everything? They not only make their purple EFES, they make Sony VTC batteries too. They make MNKs. They'll make you whatever you want. Okay. The issue is that like the secret, the formula to making batteries has been around, you know, kind of forever now. So like it's not difficult, and they're relatively all safe. So that is the good news. The bad news over here is that, like, you know, it's so obvious that these things are fake. I mean, look at the way these things are stickered, right? This is just, you know, ginormous bold print and whatnot, and then people adding like, you know, Sony VTC. If you actually went to Sony.com and Sony.com Japan, and then Sony.com, like, you know, China, whatever, and then, you know, went to go look all this stuff, you won't find any information on it. It's actually, you know, some sub companies that sold over. So it's a long paper trail of what's going on. Okay, but officially, Sony has nothing to do with like any of this 18650 nonsense. Okay, so what I'm saying though, right, is that regardless of all this BS out there, there are fake AWs, there are fake Sonys, there are even fake EFES as well. But more or less, they're okay. They're actually okay. Stay away from like all those weird stuff, right? Like you know, the Trust Fires and the Sonys and like all those weird brands that you haven't heard of. But with the new stuff that's recently come out, okay, like Godsmoke over here, they talk about it. The new CGR batteries for the 26650s, yeah. Those things rated at 50 amps from Panasonic, those things are actually pretty decent. If you go to the Panasonic website and then, you know, you go look up like NCR 18650 or whatever, there is a history of it there. Okay, those things actually do exist as opposed to like all the Sony stuff. Let's talk about big mods. Okay, big mods. That's a lot of people, you know, you guys are like really want to hop on the bandwagon for that thing. It's all the craze. Let's get the regulated stuff out of the way first. Okay, regarding the 722 and the 730 mod, I probably hold off on that for now, right? Why? Because SX chips are constantly coming out better. At the moment, you're still good with like your DNA 30 devices that you really don't need a giganto mod like this to do your 30 watts for you. Why not just wait for like, you know, the new SX chips that could go all the way up to 50 watts if you're really looking for that kind of power? So hold off on it, okay? Let's just see what the future brings us before, you know, we resort to something. But as for, you know, the other stuff, right? Like all of you who have been having your eyes on the Hades, yeah. Let me just go ahead and point out some stuff with the Hades, right? Okay, you could go ahead and purchase a Hades these days, but there's still a lot of things to consider before you do, okay? Because in many ways, we are going back in time. What do I mean by this? See, originally when we're doing like all the 18650 mods, there is a war going on. And what is the war? The war is the size difference on the diameter, right? At the end of the day, now after the popularity of the Nemesis, the Stingray, the Turtle Ship, 22 millimeter has won the battle. Okay, because before that they were releasing all sorts of stuff that were like 23 millimeters, steam turbines, blisses, aquas. They're all 21 millimeter. Some even 20s. Right? People couldn't like, I'm gonna make this. I'm gonna make that. I'm gonna make this. I'm gonna make that. Right, that is exactly what the issue is. So for many of you guys who are like really into the design of the Hades, right, keep in mind that your top cap is going to be 28.5 and not what it's normally written, because over here, right, if you scroll all the way down, it says 31 millimeters. That's 31 millimeters of the bottom portion. The top portion is still going to be 28.5, right? Another thing over here is that like so many Hades to pick from. Peg, what do I pick? Well, if you look very closely, right, the Hades over here, it's going to say like some parts are not made in stainless steel, and then over here it says the exact same thing. Okay, it's certain parts are not made in stainless steel. So the only one that I found that was decent, like out of all of these selections over here on FastTech in particular, right, is the mixed Hades mod, which I actually don't mind having, because if it's mixed, you could put a stainless on top of it, you could put a brass on top of it, and it won't look too funky, right? So this one, yeah. If you want the SKU for it, it's 1672200, and this is the only one that doesn't say that, like, there's going to be some funky parts or whatever that may not actually be stainless steel. And this one has the magnetic firing switch with the reverse locking ring, etc., that is decent. Okay, so if you definitely want a big boy, right, this is something to consider. Not so much the black one, regardless of like the material or whatever. As I always said, like if you stare at this thing, you see the painted threads. Yeah, true. I guess you could take a Dremel to it and then fix it up a little bit, but still, why bother? It would probably be better if you went out of your way to buy a high-end black version of this thing, like see if like H-Cigar or EH Pro or Tobacco Company has it, as opposed to getting it on FastTech, which has the painted threads. You see what I'm saying? So, yeah. For the atomizer up top, okay, there's going to be a lot of funky atomizers out there. A few ones that I'm okay with is the stay simple. Okay, if you stay simple with the Hades style rebuildable one, right, which is very similar to like the Still Air or something like that. It's just 3 prongs over here. It makes perfect sense. Okay, it's very simple, right? It's a larger deck over here, so you can put all your wicks and your coils and everything, and the airflow completely makes sense. And it says over here, right, 28.5 millimeters. So basically you're gonna have a Hades sitting on top of a Hades. It's gonna be okay, right? And at the same time, if you like, probably pick up a 18650 tube over here, just a tube. You probably don't need the full set over here that comes with like the other 2 pieces to make it like still compatible with 18500s as well as 350s, because such a big tube or whatever. What do you do in the 350 in there, right? It's like it's this big, but haha, it's actually powered by like a stealth battery. What's the point? Yeah, but sometimes 18650 just in case, right? You never know. Let's see. The next thing that I want to talk about, right, is that like for those of you guys who are like seeing the new Vaper Giant stuff, right? Vaper Giant, Hulk Smash, and you're really into like the size of this thing, but this thing is $500. So what can we do instead? Well, there is the poor man's version of this. All right. So I want to show you over here that you could still go ahead and probably get like the Big Nasty if you really like all the functions of like what the Vaper Giant is doing. You can get the Big Nasty over here. Not too happy about this one because this one also says like some parts are not stainless steel. So probably get like some kind of Tetro Big Nasty version somewhere else if possible, right? But the good thing about this is that like the diameter of this thing is the 30 millimeter, right? While this thing is in the 30 millimeter, you could go ahead and then get the big K-Fun, the K. There's supposed to be like a K-Fun Light version where it's just ginormous. I believe it's in my shopping cart over here for the sake of being able to pull it up quickly in case I can't find it. Here we go. So this guy, yeah. I'm not exactly approving of this. I'm just saying that this is out there for you guys to go ahead and consider. Okay, personally, I don't think anybody needs something of like this kind of like mil capacity. I forgot what it says over here, but yeah, it holds a lot of juice, people. It holds a lot of, what was it, like 18 mils or something like that. I didn't bother really even. Yeah, here we go. Liquid volume 20 mils. Okay, but the point is that like the diameter of this thing, right? 29.8. The other one, the big nasty, 30. So you will not be able to slap this thing on top of a Hades because, just like I said before, like with the 18650 tubes, the war is going on right now, right? What is the top deck standard supposed to be? Nobody knows, and that's why both the Chiyu Megan and for the Hades, right? They released a couple of top cap versions that you could add onto it, so that like it could support 22 millimeter atomizers, and then try to give you more of that flush feeling. But it's still not going to look correct. If anything, your mod probably looks like a rocket, right? Because it's, you know, like piece by piece, and then it's getting smaller, right? As opposed to something that's a little bit more smooth and flush, right? Okay, this little gadget over here, right, I thought is worth a good look. You remember what I kept on saying that, like, look, certain mods, I don't really stand behind it because they're not kit compatible. Well, here you go, the kit compatible little tank, right? So there has been other companies that made it before, but I didn't recommend it at the time because it was a little bit pricey. But this one's not going to be so bad because it's made by Smoke. So the downside of this thing is that like Smoke only releases this thing in, you know, this aluminum material. So it's going to look like this, the silver aluminum or the black aluminum, and they're just going to look kind of anodized. But they don't come in like, you know, the brushed and the polished versions, which I feel as if they should, and definitely something a little bit better looking, and definitely maybe release like a 22 millimeter version or whatever, so stuff, you know, is a little more flush sitting on top of like, you know, your turtle ships and your stingrays and your Nemesis. Well, definitely not a Nemesis, because Nemesis has always been able to support a kick on his own, so then you wouldn't need it for that. But for all those other mods out there, right, that I said, like a Caravella or something, that especially if you did not buy the modular setups, the one that like comes in like this 3 separate tubes, so basically you pick a tube and go, the 350, the 500, and 650, so you could just pick a tube and go, and it's all solid, right? These things sit on top of it. It's pretty obvious like how it works. I don't think I have to explain it to you guys, but it's something to consider if you're not so conscious about the way your mod looks and you just want the function of things. So this is you know, consider if you know, you want to pick that up or not. Yeah, so we spoke about this, let's cross some stuff off of our list over here with the Hades mod and all these other larger atomizers. Okay, I want to talk about like a lot of large atomizers. Okay, as far as the Patriot over here. Okay, you're gonna find the Patriot. You're going to find the TOBH, like all these large ones or whatever. Remember what I always tell you guys, devil's in the details, all right? So looking straight down at this thing, okay, pay very, very careful attention, do your homework, check out the discussion pages, and if you're not sure, ask questions, write tickets to these people, okay? Because right now what I see over here is that like the deck of this thing, right, looks like a large TOBH, but then it's kind of it's kind of at the end and it's kind of not. But the biggest issue about it is that like there's holes drilled in the center over here, and then there's not holes drilled like crisscross. So is this really meant for a quad coil setup? Very, very questionable. Can you go ahead and intentionally force a quad coil setup in there? Yeah, absolutely. But then certain things are not really going to make sense, are they? So look at the airflow over here. You're gonna have like 2 airflow holes. What are you gonna do? You're gonna punch another one in the back, and you're gonna punch another one through the logo. Yeah, unviable, right? So same thing over here, TOBH, right? They have the big fat wide ones over here. They have it in black, they have it in silver, there's another one in chrome, I believe. And if you stare down at the cap over here, right, they still do like, you know, this lip over here for the whole TOBH airflow adjustment or whatever. But again, with careful scrutiny of the center pin over here, it doesn't look like it's set up for quad coils. And plus, again, the airflow control, it's not set up for quad coils. So props to the Cerberus RDA, the design of what's going on. I hope it shows up on FastTech. If not, then I'll probably have to go get it somewhere else, just for the sake of like trying to build different things on it. But again, right, that, and keep in mind of exactly what the diameter is going to be. So the 29.5 is definitely going to sit really funny on your Hades mod. So I would recommend this as a combination. Definitely stuff to keep in mind, right? So. Spoke about the Vapor Giant, spoke about the Cerberus or whatever. So we saved the best part for last, right? And the best part for last is always what is in Peg's shopping cart. So here we go. If you watched the episode right after the pilot episode, right? We spoke about drip tips being the control for flavor. See, there are different aspects of everything. It's like just like cars. What controls the speed? What controls the handling? What controls the the electricity? Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Right. So I've always felt that like the flavor is mostly controlled in the drip tip, and then secondary in the airflow control, and then considering like you built a reasonable coil. So at that time I said to everybody, hey, a K-Fun is a K-Fun is a K-Fun. What makes a K-Fun as a K-Fun, whatever. It's all about that goddamn drip tip. Originally, even before the Russian, went ahead and copied this Femesto stuff, the drip tip on a 3.1 K-Fun, you couldn't interchange it anyways unless you put on the adapter. The thing was screwed on to the atomizer. So what does it mean? It means that like whoever designed this thing, the modder, the manufacturer, its original intention is, please use my tank with this drip tip in order for this experience. You know what I mean? It wasn't meant for you to go ahead and, yeah, they'll still give you the option because they know some people are going to be like that. But it's kind of like the whole idea of eating ketchup with steak. There's a lot of people out there that do it. I understand that. But still, by the time you go into like, a Gordon Ramsay joint or something like that, you put your ketchup on your lobsters, you put your ketchup on, you're kind of killing it, right? So try it one time the way it is. If you really can't stand it and it's not for you, then the whole system is probably not for you. But if you could get behind the whole idea of the small bore drip tip increasing the flavor for you, then I believe that this is the way to go. And then thank God they came out with like the 5-packs. The single one is going to be $1.60. The 5-pack is $5.74. I'm gonna go ahead and get the 5-pack because I have like all these Genesis devices and whatnot, and for the sake of doing different kinds of flavor control experiments, I would need a lot of these and just slap them all on at the same time because I can't be bothered washing and then doing this one, wash and then doing this one, right? So yeah. The flavor drip tips over here definitely I think is a big deal. I recommend that one strongly to everyone to check it out if you're a flavor junkie. Okay, K-Fun Mini, they screwed me last time. Okay, so we're not going to look at this. They screwed me last time. I had this in my basket. I checked it out. They canceled my order because they ran out. So I'm going to attempt to buy it again. Okay. The cancel. What are you going to do? Okay, E-cig battery voltage tester. So you've seen voltmeters before, right? However, as I've said in many times, right, like when you go to different kinds of atomizers, what makes a bad atomizer? And that is the pin inside of the 510 connection over here. If it recesses, it could cause a short, and that is the first sign of a bad atomizer. And the same rule applies to battery voltage testers. Okay, so other than that, how well the LED reads out, how bright it is, how clean everything is, but like over here, it looks like somebody like took an X-Acto knife and chopped it as opposed to an actual I don't know how this, but it looks a little rough around the edges, but we'll see what happens when I actually get it. If it's really decent and everything is solid, the pins, they don't recess or anything like that, then I'll let you guys know, and I'll recommend this for everybody because it's more or less as you get more and more advanced into this stuff, regardless if you're an educator or not, it would be nice to know exactly like what the voltage drops are on certain things and what is happening with your battery and its performance under load, just for the sake of knowing the different numbers of what's going on. Not so much as to use it as, haha, my mech mod is better than your mech mod. Not exactly always in that case, because as I said before, right, just because you didn't get something in the copper version and you just have it in the stainless version doesn't mean that you can't tweak it to back to the same level as the other guy, because there is such a thing as tweaking your vape to hit too hard and it's uncomfortable, right? So this is something that I will get back to you guys and then let you know about. Okay, the K-Fun light over here we already spoke about, and then here's two things that I think is very interesting. One is going to be the Rootskar. Okay, I'm not too sure exactly how to pronounce it, but don't worry about it. This tank over here, let's get it and then let's see what's going on. What I do like is that it's stainless steel plus glass. No more of that PMMA polycarbonate nonsense, right? Because it's 2014 and like you really can't be bothered with that anymore. Figgity blue blah over here, a lot of talk about like how this thing is K-Fun style, K-Fun killer. I'm not very big on the whole like, this killer, that killer, or whatever, because if anything, just by eye, like what we said earlier about like the K-Funs or whatever, what makes a K-Fun, what makes a Russian a Russian, mainly part of it is that drip tip, okay? And this thing doesn't even come with a drip tip. So we could say like, the Atomizer is more or less built like K-Fun-ish style, but is it a K-Fun killer? I highly doubt it, okay? But we'll get it and then we'll see what happens. All right, next item over here, the mirror style rebuildable atomizer. This one is pretty interesting to me, okay? Because just looking at it, I'm gonna get it, and then I'll research it a little bit, and then I'll check out a couple of Google images of how other people built it, and then I'll see if I could come up, I'll try building it their way, and then vape on it a little bit, and then I'll see if I could come up with like an alternate build, and then I'll let you know if I could do like something a little bit more optimal, or if what's going on is, the best way already, okay? So we'll see what happens with this thing, but again, it doesn't seem to come with its own drip tip or anything like that, so it seems, again, like K-Fun-ish, but not really, because I'm not seeing that obvious chimney setup. So yeah, it's stuff like this that catches my eye. Every time the base and the deck of something is just like a little bit out of the ordinary, that's what really catches my eye. It's time that we move on from all of that simple, like, three-prong setups and RDAs and stuff, and we start moving a little bit more away from that basic K-Fun setup, right? The K-Fun setup, the Aqua setup, it's been done. It's been done many times. How much more can we improve on that before we really should try different things? So I really like, the whole mirror style rebuildable atomizer and that Cerberus RDA, because you could turn the inside so that like you can have the positive and negative line up, or you can have the positive with the airflow line up for all sorts of different kinds of setups. And I feel as if, like, if anything, that would be pushing innovation, and I'm all for that. So that concludes the season of Vape Shopping with Peg, and I wish you all a very happy holiday.